So lab number 15, like I was telling you before, straightforward lab. The only thing is it has quite a large amount of material. So let's kind of go. What are the four distinct characteristics of the chordates? Make sure that you remember those. There might be similar question on the upcoming test. So, well, the notochord, right? Then what else? Pharyngeal slits. Remember, they are extremely, or gill slits. They are extremely important because they are later on will be modified into many structures in the skull. What else? Dorsal hollow nerve cord and the muscular postanal tail. Okay. So name two subphylum of the chordates which are invertebrates. Well, we have the tunicates and we have urochordate and the cephalochordate, the lancelets. Which subphylum of chordates contain animal with vertebra? That would be a vertebrate. Name the class of chordates with bony skeleton but no legs. That would be fish. Which class of chordates contain animals with cartilage skeleton? That would be a cartilage fish, Chondrichthyes. Which class of chordates contain animals which have four legs but no amniotic sac? That would be the amphibians. List the characteristics of the Chondrichthyes. Chondrichthyes cartilage fish, so sharks, skates, and stingrays. So in this particular case, cartilage is predominantly part of the skeleton. No swimming bladder, placoid scales. Name the chordates with hair and mammary glands. That would be mammals, right? So let's kind of take a look on the table number 1. We're looking at the model of the lancelet as well as the preserved specimens, and the C-squirt is the tunicate. So we have urochordate and cephalochordate right there. Model most likely will be on the lab practical, so make sure you understand what you're looking at. That's kind of, well, gill slits, right? Everybody see the gill slits. No problem here, very easily to identify. So mouth goes into a pharynx, essentially, gill slits, the water comes out, brings the oxygen, whatever is filtered out, the food goes through the digestive system. So stomach, intestine, all that particular stuff, anus. Got it. That's very simple. Now there is a little bit of mishap on what considered to be on this particular model, what is the notochord and what is the dorsal nerve cord. You see that particular green structure right here? All right, that particular structure is notochord. The light pinkish color right here, a tube essentially, that's the dorsal nerve cord. Because some people saying that this is the nerve. No, that's not it. That's the part of the muscle, right? So that's the muscles, that's the skin. So in this particular case, gill slits, no, of course, the mouth, the tail. But in this case, what we're looking at, gill slits, notochord, the green part, and the dorsal nerve cord. The creature known as a lancelet, also known as Amphioxus. Again, in the videos which you should be watching, you will have it's talking about the Amphioxus a little bit. Here's the key, just in case. The colors are different, so gill slits, then the notochord. Notochord will be green on the model, right there, the dark green. And then light pink is the nerve cord. So you will need to identify, be able, okay, hollow nerve cord, notochord, pharyngeal slits, postanal tail. Well, tail is kind of given, right? So let's kind of take a look right here. Sea squirts, remember, a very simple creatures as the adult. sucking in current, X current, a siphon sucking water in. Well, the water gives the oxygen, remove carbon dioxide. Also, whatever is filtered out will be digested and water comes out. And here we're looking at the Amphioxus, at the Lancelet, the head, and then you can see the segmented muscle. So it's about half an inch, well, inch and a half or so creature, so not up to 2 inches. All right, so on the model, you will need to go with the pharyngeal gill slits, notochord, dorsal tubular, and oral tentacles. Well, oral tentacles on the model would be, of course, that particular structure. So, yeah, easy. Not much of the problem. So here we have the sea squirts from the top, from the side view. You can actually, on that one, you can see the digestive system, or part of the digestive system. And here's the tunicate looks like, and that one is about quarter in diameter or so. So not a very large creature either. All right, let's see. Next one will be a Cyclostomata. Again, stomos means mouth, cyclo means cyclo means round, so round mouth. Suckers, they don't have the jaws just yet. So in this particular case, all you need to do is kind of look at that particular creature. That would be a hogfish. So in this particular case, you can see no teeth, just some of the tentacles. That's for the sensing the environment. They don't really have any eyes. That's the side view of the head of the hogfish. The front view, the side view, and the hogfish itself. And then now we're looking at the lamprey. Lamprey, you can see the gills opening. The eye should be somewhere here. But in this particular case, what you see is the round mouth with a bunch of teeth. So here we go. This is animal. Okay. Which animal has teeth showing on a picture? That would be a lamprey. Which animal is a predator? Well, technically speaking, both of them, but that one considered to be a more predatory. The other one is just, well, it's not a grazer, it's a scavenger. So here what we're looking at, the sucking mouth, bunch of teeth, and then the cross section showing you all kinds of structures, but you don't really have to worry much about those. This is the eye. So you don't have to worry about those ones because it will not be on, I don't think it will be on a lab practical. If it will be, if I'll see it, if you'll see it, send me the picture. If, like, for example, the arrow will be pointing, name the structure. I don't know. So yes, if you have any issues with the pictures, with the questions, print screen it, send it to me, and we'll proceed from there. In the worst case scenario, I'll say no, but in the best case scenario, I'll say, hey guys, yes, it wasn't a very good question, and I can admit it if it's not a good question, and then I'll just give the point. All right, next one is the Chondrichthyes. See that particular structure, the jaw? Looks like made out of bone. As a matter of fact, it feels, if you touch it, well, if you have a face-to-face lab, then you will feel that it's almost a bony structure, cartilage. That's why it's called Chondrichthyes, cartilage fish. So be careful with that. That one is the ray jaw. Again, you're looking at that, touching it, it looks like a bone, feels like a bone. It is a cartilage. So here we're looking at the shark pop. As you can see, it attached to the food source. That's basically the food source for developing shark, dogfish. So one of the sharks, that's the replica of megalodon tooth, a relatively large one, and that's the actual tooth from one of the sharks. I think I brought that one in. Well, yeah, in some of the areas you can literally go in and collect some of the teeth, and it was about, that one was about 2-inch long, still sharp, even though it's about like what, 150 or so millions of years old. So yes, very, very well preserved because they made out of one of the toughest, if not the toughest mineralized structures in pretty much entire body. So here we're looking at the jaws as well as the shark vertebrates. And again, looks like bone, feels like bone, cartilage. Well, teeth are not made out of cartilage. It's a placoid. Well, it's made out of dentin and enamel, but the jaw itself made out of cartilage. So yes. Okay, so here we're looking at the stingray as well as the skate, following on the structure, dorsal fins, pectoral fins, pelvic fin, gill slits, ventral mouth. Well, mouth is easy, eye as well. The gill slits are very easy as well. Dorsal on the back, so to speak. Then we have the pectoral, and then we have something which known as the pelvic fins. So in this particular case, let me kind of pull out the picture right here. So let's see the mouth, right? And then we have gill slits, dorsal fin, the pectoral fin, and the pelvic fin. And that's a tail, yes, I know, amazing. So yes, let's see on the actual creature. So we have a preserved shark. So the eye, right, the head, nostril, the mouth will be right there. Here we have a dorsal fin. That would be part of. Well, let's see if I have a, yeah. So here we have a mouth. Here is the pectoral fin, and that's the pelvic fin right here. All right, what is the function of the spiracles? Spiracles are very important. Let me kind of show you the spiracle. You see, this is the eye. This is a preserved skate, and I think we have the mount specimens as well. So this is the eye. Right below or right behind the eye, there is openings on other side. We talk about the spiracles when we were talking about the insects. It was the holes in the body which allow the air into the tracheal system. Here it's pretty much the same thing. Think about these skates. What do? They basically hover over the bottom of the, well, usually a shallow part of the ocean, right? Some of them are freshwater, but most of them are marine animals. So as it's hovering, if it will start breathing the water which is right there, and some of them even burrowing into the sand. So if it will be breathing or trying to move that particular water in its gills, from the bottom, it will clog up the gills. So for that, they have a special opening, spiracles, which drain the water, goes over the gills, and then release the water. All right. So spiracles. What is the function of the spiracles? To send the water to the gills, essentially. What is the shark skeleton made out of? The shark skeleton would be made out of, yes, you guessed it right, would be made out of cartilage. What happens to the shark if they stay still? They don't have a swimming bladder. They are heavier, they're more dense, the body is more dense than the water, so they will start slowly sinking. And then, of course, if they'll sink too far, the internal pressure will kill them. Name some of the skate's appendages. In this particular case, it pretty much doesn't have the dorsal fin. It has a very large pectoral fin. All of that is the pectoral fin. All of that right there. And then there is the pelvic fins, those ones. And then, of course, it has a tail. And it's called a stingray because tail will possess something which is known as a barb. So if, for example, you are walking down the shallow areas, even in a Galveston, you can step on that, or yeah, you can step because you don't really see, especially in the murky Galveston water. You can step on what will happen. The skate or stingray will not really be happy if you step on it. it will basically swipe the tail, and with the tail, it will basically hit you with the barb. Quite painful experience. Haven't had that one myself yet, but yes, if you remember one of the quite famous naturalist, he was killed by the stingray. He was filming the stingray in a coral reef, great coral barrier reef near Australia, and got too close. Stingray swooped it and pierced his heart. So here we're looking at the skate again, pectoral fins, and this is the pelvic fins, right? And here we're looking at the eyes, and the openings behind the eyes are spiracles. So again, here we go. That's the spiracle right here, spiracle right there. So we're talking about dorsal and ventral sides. This is the mouth, right? Everybody understand that. Okay, skate appendages, talk about that. They don't really have a dorsal fin. So be able to recognize, and that one I haven't talked to you about that. That's a shark eggs. Sometimes they're referred as the mermaid purses because, well, you can find it in the ocean, looks like a purse, kind of nice, intricate. And, well, who might have a purse in the ocean? Well, mermaids, naturally. So here we go. But actually it's a shark eggs. Those ones are empty ones. That's just the shells of the shark eggs. All right. Oh, and that's the skate, skate jaw, and skates are basically grazers. As a result, they don't have a very sharp teeth. They chomp on whatever the algae they can get head the mouth on, so to speak. And you can see that this is the actual barb from the tail right here. All right. Next one is the majority of the fish known as the Osteichthyes or bony fish, the skeleton made out of bone. So on a picture, you will need to figure it out: dorsal fin, pectoral fin, pelvic fins, anal fin, and then we will have the terminal mouth, operculum, and swimming bladder. All right, well, let's kind of start from the creature right here. So the preserved specimen of the perch, dorsal fins, right? Pectoral fin, pectoral. Then this one would be a pelvic fin. Yes, I know, right next to the pectoral fin. And that would be anal fin, and the tail fin, of course. Mouth right there, and that particular covering of the gills would be known as the operculum. Let's kind of look at the model. On the model, what you will see, dorsal fins right here, the mouth, the eyes, that flap known as the operculum. Okay, swimming bladder. And we have the heart, digestive system. Don't have to worry much about that. We're not going into that deep, but swimming bladder is important. Allows the buoyancy, well, maintain the different buoyancy, and that's of course the brain. Maintain the buoyancy of the fish, so if it will stop, it will not start sinking. Now, that one is the pelvic fin. All right? Yes, it is a pelvic fin. This is anal fin. Many of the students are saying that's the pectoral, then that would be a pelvic, and then they don't have anal. No, anal, pelvic. Where's the pectoral fin? Pectoral fin has been removed from this. It would be right here. It has been removed. So I think I have another picture of the same model from the other side, and then you will see the pectoral fin. All right. So here the operculum has been removed, and you can see the gills are covered by that particular structure, the brain. So yes, the swimming bladder, make sure that you know what is the function of the operculum as well as the function of the swimming bladder. See, right here, this is the same creature, and this is the pectoral fin right there. So pectoral, pelvic, anal, and the dorsal, and the tail fins. All right. Any questions? So let's see. Dorsal fins, pectoral, pelvic, anal, terminal mouth, operculum, swimming bladder. Got all that part. What is the skeleton of the seahorse is made out of? Seahorse is the bony fish, so the skeleton will be made out of bone. What happens to the bony fish when they stop swimming? They'll just float in the water because of the swimming bladder. They're not going up or down or anything like that. They can if they want to, if they'll start changing the pressure inside of the swimming bladder. What are the advantage of bony fish over the sharks? Well, quite a few of those. First of all, skeleton, bony skeleton. The presence of operculum, they don't have to move constantly because operculum can move a little bit and it will aerate the gills. And yes, whenever the fish will swim, it will have the mouth a little bit open so the water can go through the gills as well. And then, of course, we have the swimming bladder. So operculum, swimming bladder, bony skeleton. That would be major parts. All right, so moving on to the next, yes, terminal mouth, identify, be able to identify and save the function. So here we're kind of having a brief lab practical review as well. So female, male, don't have to worry much about any of those. So here we have the horse, seahorse, looks kind of like a horse, at least the head and the tail, and then there is like here should be 4 legs, but they don't have legs. And that's of course another fish. So here we have all of them made the skeleton out of bone. Yeah, that's a puffer fish, by the way, right? Everybody heard about the puffer fish. Sushi, yum, if you'll survive. Apparently, never tried those. So here we have another fish, actually two of them, and all of them are, yes, all of them are bony fish in this particular case. Now, next class, amphibians. So we start talking about the terrestrial creatures, so somewhat terrestrial creatures. Order Anura. Anura means tailless. Apoda, legless. And then we finally have the Urodelia, which would be the tailed one. So you should be able to identify the creatures on the display, and we have it right here. So we have the frogs and the toads, salamander of some sort, and the newt. I think that's the, let's see, there's frogs, newt, yeah, salamanders. So you should be a siren, salamander, newt, toad, tree frog, leopard frog. So in this particular case, you might see, and it says identify the class, amphibian. Identify, I don't think we'll go too deep into the orders, but you should say tailless or tailed ones. There is no legless here. And here we go. That one is the salamander, and you can see a very nice tail. So salamander, of course, would be Urodelia, and then the frogs are, and the toads are Anura. So the dissection, in dissection, you need to be able to recognize the main parts, such as the heart, a liver, which is all that. The largest internal organ in body of terrestrial creatures is the liver. Esophagus, don't have to worry about that, but the intestines, you should be able to identify. And I think I have some more pictures of the dissected frogs for you to show you on the actual specimen. So liver, esophagus, lungs are very simple. Heart, well, esophagus, don't have to worry much about that, kind of hard to see, but stomach as well as the intestines, and I'll show it to you later on. All right, so let's see the questions. How do amphibians like frog breathe? How? With help of lungs and the skin, something which is known as a positive breathing or positive pressure breathing. They kind of gulping for the air. What do amphibians need to reproduce? Water, dihydrogen monoxide, DHMO, right? Anybody heard about DHMO research? Look it up, quite interesting. So anyway, what those animals are called amphibians because they have two lives. Part of their life they spend in the water like a fish, tadpoles, and the other on a dry land as a regular four-legged creatures. List three characteristics of the amphibians. Four legs, three-chamber heart, moist skin, what else? Double life. I'm giving more than four. You can choose, pick and choose whichever you want to. Have to have water for the reproduction. So on the model, let's see features. Um, let's see. Do I have that model? Yes, I do have that model. So in this particular case, that would be the teeth right here, kind of pinkish. So that would be Vomerine teeth. So three-chamber heart. Heart is in the middle right here. See, one chamber, two chambers, three chambers. What's really interesting that one chamber, the right side, will get the deoxygenated blood. It will push it into the ventricle. The left side, left atrium, will get oxygenated blood from the lungs, that lung, and it will push it there. As a result, the ventricle mostly sending kind of mixed blood throughout the body. That's one of the reasons why they need the moist skin to add it up a little bit of oxygen as well. So we have a heart. What else do you need to know? A lung, that particular pink thing. So as you can see, just kind of like a ball, well, like a little sac. Intestine. All of that is intestine right here. The longest part of the digestive tract is the intestine. So all of that is the intestine right here. And then you will need to find the kidney. Oh, and the blue one is a continue to be an intestine, right? Kidney, probably that one. No, it's part of the liver. Where is the kidney? On the actual one, you can see kidney really, really well. On the model, anyway, I'll show it to you on the actual one, hopefully. Anyway, so gallbladder will be a greenish structure right here. Liver, of course, all of that kind of dark part, that's the liver. The kidney should be somewhere here. That yellow stuff is the fat. And don't have to worry about tasty, so they overduct. If you'll see eggs, you can see. So here's the dissected frog, how the dissected frog look like. And in this particular case, see, it's slightly different than the actual model. That's the heart. Okay, all that is actual liver. Those particular kind of brownish orange projections are fat body. That's a fairly fatty frog, and the frogs are big. So yeah, unfortunately we're not dissecting them. So now I kind of moved most of the liver up. I kind of pull up the liver, and you can see the gallbladder right here. You'll see the stomach, and now you can clearly see the intestine. Right. Okay, let's see what else. Yes, the liver, the heart, liver, heart, and this is tiny little bitty lungs on this side. You'll have a lung as well. So yeah, and then if you dissect a little bit further, kind of move the fat bodies as well as the intestine away. On the dorsal side, you will see the kidney. Yeah, I knew that there is a kidney there. So you can see that the stomach is kind of connected to a very thin connective tissue, and we'll talk about that. That's something which known as a mesentery, say keeping the organs intact. So whenever the frog jumping around, or I'm jumping around, my stomach is not going all over the place in my body cavity. Speaking of which, whenever I was dissecting the frog, what I was cut through, I cut through the skin and the muscles, and I got into a xylem, into the body cavity, which was hosting most of the internal organs. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. Stomach, intestine, then we have liver, heart, the lung, relatively small, fat tissue or fat bodies, intestine, and kidney. All right, next lab, next table, table number 6 are the essentially reptiles, including the birds. So be able to recognize some of the examples if you'll see that particular picture. And then, of course, we're looking at the lizard, the snake, the tortoise, and then some sort of alligator. So here we go, crocodiles. So here we go. If you'll see it, it says which class it belongs to, class reptiles, and you're moving in. Moving on. So here we're looking at some of the snakes. That's the coral snake, right? Red and yellow, kill the fellow. Yeah, that one. So yes, that's the well, it's a venom, not poisonous. You can eat it. Tastes like chicken. I didn't try the coral snake, but I tried snake before. But the it's a venomous. It has the venomous teeth, which will inject. But those ones are well, the teeth are relatively weak. It will take quite an effort for the creature to bite you. So here we're looking at that's the copperhead, right? Yes, that's the copperhead. And then we have the rattlesnake and water moccasin. Rattlesnake, copperhead, cottonmouth, or water moccasin, same thing, and the coral snake. So let's take a look on the questions. What the feature helps reptilian live independent from the water? Keratinized skin, internal fertilization, and the amniotic eggs to protect that particular creature from whatever, from the drying out, actually. Name the order that includes turtles, terrapins, and tortoises, and that would be, of course, Testudines. What are the 3 orders reptiles found on the model? We have a Testudinus, Squamata, and then the Crocodilia. Identify, well, they were identified for you already. Birds are reptiles with adaptation to flight, so we'll talk a little bit. Oh, here's the preserved specimen, dried up essentially, of the rattlesnake, the actual rattlesnake, and here we have the preserved specimen, dried up specimen of the tortoise with the shell. Naturally, the shell was, if you kind of open up the shell, you will see that there is a vertebrate column going kind of fused to the shell. And here we have the skeleton of the snake, tons and tons of vertebrates, as you can see, and then the jaw. And of course, you know that the jaw can dislocate itself to swallow much larger prey. One of the problems with the snakes, since they lost their limbs, pretty much everything what they can do is they doing with their mouth. And here are some of the eggs, see, amniotic eggs of the reptiles. It's a relatively small. I took a close-up picture, but they are about half inch, maybe inch, about an inch long, about 3/4 of an inch. So birds showing the feathers, and look at this particular creature, hollow bones throughout, and that particular structure is known as the keel. K-E-L. So it's not helping for some another reason. Students think that, well, keel, the ships have keel, so it helps them with this, well, floating. So that one supposed to guide them through the air. No, that's actually a breastbone, an enlarged breastbone. This is where those particular flying, the pectoral muscles will be attached. Right, remember we were talking about the sagittal crest with a lot of muscles, right? Same kind of idea. It's not a sagittal crest, it's called keel. But again, that it takes a lot of muscles for the bird to fly. So those particular muscles, the white meat on the chicken, this is what essentially flying muscles of the chicken. But since the chickens are not flying, they are relatively tender. But in this particular case, the keel is used to attach the flying muscles. All right, hollow bones, small side organs, no teeth in the beak. So yes, teeth are relatively heavy. So here again, you're looking at the preserved chicken, and again, no teeth on the beak. Some of the feathers. Here I took a picture of the bird. That's, yeah, that one was in Mexico, I think, maybe Belize. So anyway, let's see, enlarged keel. So yes, keel list the characteristics that are unique to birds. Well, we just talk about those hollow bones and large keel for the attachment of the muscles or flying muscles. Most of them are adapted for flying. They have four-chamber heart now. The deoxygenated and oxygenated part are separated fully. What is the function of the keel? Muscle attachment or flying muscle attachment. A list to difference between birds and other reptiles, four-chamber heart and warm-blooded. And of course they have feathers. But yeah, so here we have three differences, major differences. So subphylum vertebrate, class Mammalia. So in this particular case, mammals, right? So here about 5,000 or so species. We have the monotromes, only few species remain. Marsupials, not so many. Majority of the mammals you can think of, the rabbits, the mice, the elephants, the whales, all of them are pretty much placenta. So in this particular case, here's the examples of the monotromes. We don't have all of them are protected species, of course. And so we have the echidnas, this pine, uh, so porcupine-looking creatures, and the platypus. What they do, they are laying eggs. They do have hair, four-chamber heart, well, fur, not hair, well, everything else. However, they do wait for the little ones to hatch, and then they uh, feed them with the milk. So milk secrete through the skin on abdomen don't really have nipples. Oh, and remember we were talking about the cloaca. The reptiles as well as amphibians and fish have the one opening to dispose waste materials. Those ones are considered to be, well, the most primitive one because they have, similar to the reptiles, they have one opening, the cloaca. While the most of the mammals will have two openings for urine as well as the feces. So make sure you will be able to recognize those creatures. So now the marsupials. We talked about opossums last time, and then yes, Joey is the name for the little kangaroo. So in this particular case, they have a special pouch. So the baby will be born kind of underdeveloped, have to crawl itself into the pouch, and this is where the rest of the development will continue. And finally, the placental mammals. This is basically the placenta, as you can see, a right kind of light pinkish color represents the tissue body of the embryo, which is literally growing into the tissues of the female, well, yes, female, well, specifically in the uterus wall to exchange the nutrients as well as the waste. So birth was given, as you can see, the little one will be surrounded by that particular placenta. Later on, it will be discarded. So yes, the elephants are having a fairly long gestation period, about 18 months, meaning they're pregnant for about 18 months, and that one is the African elephant because of the large ears. And in this particular case, I already told you the African elephants with the same level of hunting or poaching of the African elephants as we have it right now will cease to exist in the wild in the next 20 or so years. Elephant is a creature which cannot jump. Yeah, just kind of a side note there. So what are the difference between monotromes and the placental mammals? The question is, Monotromes do not have placenta, while the placental mammals have the placenta. Give two example of the monotromes. Kangaroos, koalas, opossums, all of those. Give two example of the placental mammals. Any mammals, well, if any mammals you can think of, the bats, the elephants, the horses. I have a pony in my, well, do I see it right now? Dog, cat, no, I don't see the pony right now, but sheep, goats, tigers, lions, whales, dolphins, right? All of those particular will be placental mammals. Majority of the mammals are placental. Mice, rats, all that particular good stuff. Armadillos, porcupines, etc. So we got that part, and let's take a look here. We have, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's a cat, right? Everybody understand. Preserved specimen of the two-headed kitten. As you might or might not know, South Campus located right next to the toxic waste site. Yes, yes, I know. Some people like, what? We are right next to the toxic waste site. Yeah, whenever I'm talking, I'm like, yeah, it's right. Literally across the street, across the Beamer, kind of diagonally, there is a really nice green field, which is the contained toxic waste site. They were working on it in the 90s and early 2000s, and it's considered to be a contained. So no toxic fumes coming out or anything like that. But before it was contained, there was the neighborhood right next to it. Literally a neighborhood. They had to buy, well, the state had to buy those houses and level them out because they start having all kinds of issues, including that particular kitten, which was born there and was brought up by one of the, I guess, former students. And we preserved and showing you and talking about that right now. That's the bat right here, preserved bat in well, dry preservation or in acrylic glass or wet preserved. And then we have that's the mouse right there, kind of hard to see, but you know, the ears, the whiskers, and the puppy has been preserved. That one is alive. I took it literally last year, 2020, in somewhere in May. It was a newborn and was laying down in the grass, thinking that I don't really see it. So it was there quite nicely, quite calmly. So hoping that I will move or go away, and eventually I did. But I took a couple of pictures, yeah. And let's see, yeah, I'll keep that one. So post-lab review, true, false. Phylum Chordata only contains vertebrate animals. That would be a fat false, because there is two subphyla which are not vertebrates. What are 4 distinct characteristics of the chordates? 4 distinct characteristics of the chordates is the notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord, pharyngeal slits or gill slits, postanal tail, muscular postanal tail, and the segmented muscles. So here are 5. What are the distinct characteristics of the mammals? Hair, feeding the little ones with the milk, generally giving the birth to the live ones. Some of them can lay eggs. 7 neck vertebrae, 4 chamber heart. So here we have some of the very distinct characteristics of mammals. What are distinct characteristics of amphibians that help them make it to land? Lungs. That's a good one right there. Lungs is one of the, and of course legs, limbs, lungs and limbs. They were able to crawl around. How have reptiles solved the problem of desiccation on land? They waterproof their skin with a specific protein known as the keratin, so they no longer drying out. They also come up with the internal fertilization, all right, and of course the egg. Name 3 orders of reptiles. Turtles, lizards and snakes, so testudinous, clomatas, and crocodilia, alligators, crocodiles and alligators. How do birds adapt to the flight? Hollow bones, 4-chamber heart, modified breastbone to attach the flying muscles, feathers. How mammals different from the reptiles? Quite a few of those particular differences, but generally no laying eggs no more for almost all of them, feeding little ones with the milk, hair or fur, 4-chamber heart, and maintain the body temperature. Choose whichever you prefer. Tons of those differences. How would you identify a water moccasin or cottonmouth? It's a relatively large snake, fairly thick, and usually darker color, doesn't have any rattles on. Look very similar. They related to the rattlesnake, but doesn't have the rattle. And once again, when you see a snake, easiest way just to walk away. It's more afraid of you than it's afraid of, you're afraid of it. Identify a major features body plan of the phylum Chordata. Germ layers, 3 of them, ecto and the mesoderm, symmetry, bilateral, true coelomates. They would be deuterostomes. And 4 major unique characteristics: notochord, dorsal nerve cord, gill slits or pharyngeal slits, post-anal muscular tail. Draw a cladogram. Yay! All you need to do is go way up in the lab, and you have that particular cladogram for you already created. All you just need to do is flip it back. Flip it upside down. Phylum Chordata, presence of vertebrates, splitting up, and so on and so forth. So that thing in your own art and flipped back, flipped upside down. Easy. Summarize some of the features of amphibians that adaptory life to land and some features that are associated with aquatic life or aquatic ancestry. Okay, features for the land: lungs and limbs. We already talked about that. And then for the aquatic life or aquatic ancestry, they have to go back to the water to do what? To reproduce. They're laying eggs in the water. The little ones developing in the water. They have to have water to reproduce, and initial cycle for the initial development happens in the water. And we are done with the lab.